The rain hadn't stopped in 3 days. It fell over El Paso like a curtain of glass, blurring the border lights until the horizon looked like it was weeping. The streets smelled of dust and gasoline, of lost things, of prayers whispered in the wrong language. Camila Vega walked fast, her dark hair plastered to her neck, clutching a soaked denim jacket against her chest as she crossed the narrow street outside the halfway house. She didn't believe in angels anymore. Hadn't since her brother vanished into the desert 6 months ago. The border took everything from people like her. Names, faith, safety. Now it was just her, 2 jobs, and the unbearable silence of waiting. But that night something felt different. The city hummed low, like it was holding its breath. She reached the corner where the neon flicker of El Corazon bar reflected off puddles. The sound of a guitar drifted through the open doorway, smooth and slow, wrapped around the laughter of men with deep voices. She wasn't supposed to stop. Father Gabriel at the shelter would have called it temptation. But the rain was cold, and the smell of smoke and tequila was warmer than anything waiting in her small rented room. Inside, the bar pulsed with shadows. A jukebox glowed red in the corner. Men sat in silence, eyes half-lidded, smoke curling around them like ghosts. And then she saw him. At first, she thought he was a painting. Too still, too perfectly unreal. A man in a black suit sat alone at a corner table, a glass of mezcal in his hand. His dark hair slicked back, his jaw sharp under the amber light. His eyes, black, calm, and unreadable, met hers across the room. The bartender, a woman with tired eyes, muttered something under her breath. "Don't stare, chica. That's Rafael Cortez." Camila frowned. "Who?" "The man who owns half of Juarez and most of this side of town too. You don't want to be noticed by him." But she already was. Rafael's gaze lingered, steady and quiet. It wasn't lust, not exactly. It was curiosity, a kind of slow assessment, as if he were reading her soul and finding something familiar there. He gestured toward the empty seat across from him. Camila should have turned around. She should have walked out into the rain, gone home, prayed for forgiveness, and forgotten the way his eyes felt against her skin. But she didn't. When she sat down, she noticed the faint scar along his wrist, like a line burned into memory. His voice was low, fluent, touched with a Mexican accent softened by years of American schooling. "You don't belong here," he said. She smirked, though her throat was tight. "And you do." He leaned forward, eyes glinting. "I make the rules here." "That's not the same as belonging." Something in his tone, resigned, almost mournful, made her look closer. He was dangerous, yes, but not empty. There was grief there, buried deep beneath control and luxury. The kind of grief that recognizes its own reflection. "I just needed somewhere dry," she said, voice barely above the sound of rain against the roof. He nodded, slow, considering. "Then you can stay. As long as you're honest with me." "About what?" "Everything." The music shifted, an old bolero playing through static. They sat in silence for a long time, watching droplets slide down the window. Camila felt her heart pound, too loud, too alive. Rafael watched her like a man who'd forgotten what softness looked like. When she finally rose to leave, he stood too, moving with quiet control. "You live near the river. How would you know?" His half-smile didn't reach his eyes. "You walk like someone who counts the blocks between danger and home." Her pulse skipped. "Maybe I am danger." He stepped closer, close enough for her to smell his cologne. Dark, smoky, expensive. "No," he said softly. "You're something else. Something the dark hasn't learned to hold yet." Her chest tightened. It was an absurd line, but it didn't sound like one when he said it. Sounded like truth. Outside, thunder rolled low. He handed her an umbrella, black silk with a silver handle. "You'll need it." "I can't take this." "You can," he murmured. "And you will." His hand brushed hers as he passed it over. Just a moment of contact, but it felt electric, like stepping into light after too long in shadow. She turned quickly, needing to breathe. By the time she reached the doorway, he was already gone. The rain eased to a drizzle as she walked home. The umbrella glimmered faintly under the streetlights, too elegant for her world. She thought of his eyes, how they'd searched hers without fear or pity. The way his voice carried the weight of someone who'd seen blood and beauty and didn't know how to separate the two anymore. At the shelter, she placed the umbrella on her small dresser and lay awake for hours listening to the hum of the air vent. When she finally slept, she dreamed of desert storms and black wings spreading across the border sky. The next morning, a black car idled outside the shelter gate. Its windows tinted, its engine purring like a predator at rest. A man in a suit stepped out, tall, calm, holding a letter. "For Miss Camila Vega," he said. Father Gabriel frowned from the doorway. "Who's it from?" The man's face gave nothing away. "Mr. Cortez." Camila froze, her heart thudding. She hesitated before taking it. The envelope was thick, heavy, her name written in perfect cursive. Inside was a single folded note and a small silver key. The note read, "For when you're ready to stop running." She didn't understand it, didn't want to, but the moment she touched the key, she felt that strange electricity again. Like a door inside her had unlocked without her consent. That evening, the sky turned red with sunset. She found herself walking west, past the border fence, past the markets and the freight yard, until she stood before an abandoned chapel near the river, its cross broken, its windows shattered. The silver key fit the rusted lock. Inside, candles burned. Fresh ones. Their flames flickered against cracked plaster walls. On the altar, a single white rose lay beside a small photograph. Her brother, Emilio. Camila's breath caught in her throat. The image was recent, weeks old. He was alive. A whisper came from the shadows behind her. "Now you understand why I couldn't look away." He turned. Raphael stepped from the dark, the rain still glistening on his shoulders. "What do you know about my brother?" she asked, voice trembling. He looked at her, not cruelly, but with something far heavier. "Enough to tell you he's still breathing. And enough to tell you that you're standing at the edge of something you can't walk away from. Why are you doing this?" His jaw tightened. "Because sometimes the only way to find light is through the people who've already lost theirs." The candlelight danced across his face, revealing a scar near his temple she hadn't noticed before. He looked like a man who'd burned everything he loved just to feel warmth again. Camila stepped back, clutching the silver key, her pulse wild. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing," he said. "Not yet." The rain began again, heavier this time, drumming against the chapel roof like a warning. She should have run. He didn't. Because beneath the danger, beneath the fear, something else had begun to take root. A dark pull that felt like recognition, like destiny written in ash. And in that hollow church by the river, Camila Vega's life quietly broke into two. Before Rafael Cortez and after. El Paso's heat returned with a vengeance. The rain vanished as if it had been a fever dream, replaced by dry winds that tasted of dust and longing. The desert sun pressed down on everything. Cracked roads, metal fences, the hearts of people who had forgotten softness. Camila Vega tried to forget the chapel. She told herself that the photograph had been a trick, that Rafael Cortez was nothing more than a dangerous man with beautiful lies. But the key still burned in her pocket like a pulse, and at night she dreamed of her brother calling her name across the river. Days passed in slow rhythm. She worked double shifts at the diner on Alameda Street, wiping tables and pouring coffee for truckers and soldiers who never looked her in the eye. The smell of grease and burnt sugar clung to her skin. But sometimes, at the far end of the counter, she'd catch a glimpse of a black car idling across the street. Not every day. Just enough to remind her she was being watched. And each time she felt it again, the pull. That strange gravity that had started the moment she'd looked into Raphael's eyes. It wasn't just attraction, it was something older, sharper. A recognition between broken souls. On the fourth night, as the sun sank behind the Franklin Mountains, she found a single white rose placed on her apartment doorstep. No note. No explanation. Just the faintest trace of smoke and cedar, the scent of his cologne. She pressed the petals to her lips, cursing herself for the way her chest ached. That same evening, a stranger walked into the diner. He wore jeans and a denim jacket, his skin tanned, his hair the same dark shade as hers. For a moment her knees went weak. "Emilio," she whispered. The man looked up, startled, confused, and she realized it wasn't him. Just another shadow wearing a familiar face. She forced a smile, pretended it hadn't cut her open, and poured his coffee. But as she turned, she felt someone's eyes on her. In the corner booth, Raphael sat watching, dressed casually for the first time. Black shirt rolled to his elbows, gold watch glinting faintly. No guards, no distance, just him. She froze mid-step. He nodded once, like an invitation, and she obeyed without understanding why. When she slid into the booth across from him, he said nothing for a long time. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was charged, thick with everything unspoken. "You shouldn't follow me," she said quietly. He smiled faintly. "I don't follow, mi ángel. I protect." She bristled. "I don't need protection. Everyone who says that ends up needing it most." Her jaw tightened. "If you know where my brother is." "I do," he interrupted, his tone calm but final. "But there are things you're not ready to see." Camila's throat tightened. "He's alive." "Yes." She leaned forward, voice trembling. "Then tell me where." Raphael's gaze softened, and for the first time, she saw something break through that cold exterior. A flicker of guilt. "He's inside something that doesn't let people walk out easily. Can get him out. But once I do, you'll owe me more than you want to give." Her breath caught. "And what is it you want?" He looked at her for a long moment. "Your trust." The word landed between them like a vow. Outside, the diner's neon sign buzzed weakly. She felt every beat of her heart echo in her chest. "You're dangerous," she said. He smiled barely. "So are you. You just don't know it yet." Then he rose, dropped a folded napkin on the table, and walked out into the night. When she opened it, she found a name scrawled in ink. San Isidro Warehouse, midnight. By midnight, the air was thick with heat and dust. Camila stood at the edge of the river, her pulse hammering as she approached a row of abandoned warehouses. The sound of cicadas mixed with the low thrum of distant engines. She hesitated before stepping into the building Raphael had marked. Inside, dim light spilled from hanging bulbs, illuminating crates stamped with foreign seals. She wasn't alone. Raphael stood near the center, flanked by two men. Their presence was quiet but heavy, the kind of men who didn't speak unless ordered. When he saw her, he dismissed them with a gesture. "You came," he said simply. "I want answers." He nodded once. "You'll get them." He walked toward her slowly, his movements measured, controlled. "Do you know what your brother was doing before he disappeared?" "He was trying to cross back from Juarez. He called me the night before. He said he had something important, something that could get us out." Raphael's eyes darkened. "He stole something from the wrong people." Camila frowned. "What?" "A ledger. Names, routes, transactions. My enemy's blood is written on those pages. And if your brother still has it, he's the only thing keeping himself alive." She swallowed hard. "You're saying he's in the cartel. I'm saying he's in their hands now." Her stomach turned. "And what are you, Raphael?" His silence said everything. He finally looked up, voice low. "I used to be one of them. Now I'm the reason they're afraid." A shiver ran through her. "So what do you want from me?" He stepped closer until she could feel his breath on her skin. "They won't trust me anymore. But they don't know your face. You could get close to the man holding him. You want me to spy for you. I want you to save him," he said softly. "And I'll make sure you both walk away alive." Camila stared at him, her pulse wild. Every instinct screamed no, but something inside her whispered yes, because she saw it now. The danger, the control, the storm beneath his calm. He was the only one who could lead her to Emilio, and she hated that she needed him. She lifted her chin. "And if I say no?" He looked at her like he already knew her answer. "Then you'll never see your brother again." Her throat burned. "You're cruel." His expression faltered for a split second. "You think I don't know what that makes me? You think I like the things I've had to become?" He turned away, voice rough now, stripped of the calm facade. "Once, I wanted to be a priest. Before my father was killed for refusing to pay the same men who run the city now." She blinked, stunned. "I learned," he continued, "that prayers don't stop bullets. But fear does." Camila's anger softened into something she didn't want to name. Pity. Recognition. He faced her again, and the distance between them vanished. His hand brushed a strand of wet hair from her face. "This world breaks good people on hell. You can either hide from it or you can walk into the fire." Her breath hitched. "And if I burn?" His eyes held hers. "Then I burn with you." For a moment the world went silent. The wind stilled, the heat pressed close, and she could hear nothing but the sound of their hearts. His steady, hers frantic. She didn't realize she'd closed the gap between them until his hand slid to the back of her neck, holding her there, not roughly but like a promise he shouldn't make. She whispered, "I don't trust you." "I don't need you to," he murmured. "Not yet." When he stepped away, she felt the absence like pain. He handed her a small envelope. "Inside is everything you'll need. Name, location, the man who has your brother. Don't go until I tell you. I'll reach out when it's time." And just like that, he was gone, leaving behind only the scent of smoke and something dangerously close to tenderness. Camila stood alone in the dim light, trembling. The key in her pocket, the rose on her dresser, the envelope in her hand. They all felt like pieces of a trap disguised as destiny. But when she opened the envelope later that night and saw the photograph inside, she knew there was no going back. It was Emilio again, but this time he wasn't alone. Behind him, blurred by motion, stood a man with a tattoo across his throat, a serpent eating its tail. And beneath the photo, one word was written in Raphael's careful handwriting. "Target." Camila's tears hit the paper before she realized she was crying. Somewhere in the desert night, a storm gathered on the horizon. And for the first time since her brother vanished, she wasn't sure which side of the darkness she stood on anymore. The desert was silent, but the silence felt alive, buzzing with heat and danger. El Paso slept under a heavy sky, and somewhere beyond the border lights, the air smelled faintly of smoke and gunmetal. Camila Vega hadn't slept in 2 days. The envelope Raphael had given her still lay open on the kitchen table, the photo of Emilio beside it, the word target etched into her thoughts like a scar. She stared at it until dawn, tracing the shape of her brother's face, the fear in his eyes, the serpent tattoo behind him. That serpent haunted her now. She'd seen it again that morning, painted on a wall near the market in Juarez, black and curling, the symbol of the Culebra Syndicate. A cartel known for cruelty that didn't need to be named. And Raphael had once belonged to them. She could still hear his voice from that night at the warehouse. "This world breaks good people. You can either hide from it or walk into the fire." So she'd chosen fire. By sunset, she stood on the bridge to Juarez, heart pounding as the last light bled red across the Rio Grande. She wore jeans, a worn jacket, and the silver key Raphael had given her hung around her neck. Her palms were slick with sweat. Crossing that border felt like crossing into another version of herself, the one who wasn't afraid anymore, the one who would do anything to find her brother. The plan was simple, at least on paper. Raphael's man would meet her at La Cueva Roja, a cantina near the city's south side, and take her to someone who knew where Emilio was being held. But nothing about Raphael or his world was ever simple. The cantina was small, its walls painted red, the floor sticky with spilled beer. Music played low, an old love song about loss and fate. The air was thick with tobacco and whispers. She waited at the bar, pretending to sip her drink, when a man slid into the seat beside her. He was young with sharp eyes and a serpent tattoo curling up his neck. Camila froze. "You're far from home, Bonita," he said, smiling without warmth. "What brings a pretty thing like you to Juarez?" She tried to steady her voice. "I'm looking for someone. My brother." He tilted his head. "And who told you to look here?" Her throat went dry. "Rafael Cortez." The name hit the air like a gunshot. Every nearby conversation stopped for a second. The man's smile faded. "You shouldn't say that name here," he murmured, leaning closer. "Not unless you want to end up buried where no one will find you." Camila's heart raced. "Then you know who he is." "Oh, we all know who he is. The ghost of Culebra, they call him. The man who kills his own brothers and pretends it's redemption." He looked at her more carefully now. "You his woman?" She flinched. "No." He grinned, teeth sharp. "Then you're a very stupid girl, walking with a man like that in your mouth." Before she could reply, a shot cracked outside, loud, close. The cantina erupted in screams. The man turned instinctively, hand reaching for his gun, but he never got the chance to draw. A figure appeared in the doorway. Black shirt, gold watch catching the dim light. "Rafael." The sound of his voice cut through the chaos. "Let her go." The man's eyes widened. "You shouldn't be here, Cortez." Rafael's gaze was steady, cold. "Neither should you." Camila didn't even see him move. The gun appeared in his hand like a shadow had birthed it. One shot. Quick. Precise. The man fell, his glass shattering as blood spread across the table. The music stopped. The silence that followed was suffocating. Rafael turned to her, his expression unreadable. "I told you not to come alone." She stared at the body, shaking. You killed him." "He would have done worse to you." His voice was calm, almost gentle. Her vision blurred. "You said you wanted to save my brother, not start a war." He stepped closer. "This is war, Camila. You just walked into it." When she tried to push past him, his hand caught her arm, not roughly but firm, grounding. "I didn't want you to see this side of it," he said softly. "Then why bring me here?" she demanded, her voice breaking. "Because you wouldn't believe what I said unless you saw what I am." Tears burned her eyes. "And what are you, Rafael?" He looked at her like he hated himself. "A man who kills so others don't have to." She didn't know whether to hit him or hold him. They drove in silence through the empty streets until they reached the outskirts of the city. Dust swirled in the headlights. Finally, he stopped the car near an old hacienda surrounded by desert shrubs and shadows. "This is one of my safe houses," he said. "You'll stay here until I find out who's holding your brother." She turned to him. "No, I want to help." His jaw tensed. "You've helped enough. Don't treat me like I'm fragile." He exhaled, long and tired. "I treat you like someone who doesn't understand how fast this world burns." Something inside her snapped. "Maybe I don't care if I burn." Their eyes locked. A dangerous silence filled the car, charged with anger and something else, something neither of them wanted to name. Then he reached out, fingers brushing a tear from her cheek. "Don't say that," he whispered. "Not to me." "Why?" she breathed. "Because I already lost someone who thought like that." Her voice softened. "Who?" He hesitated. Then quietly, "My wife." The words hung between them like smoke. Camila's breath caught. "You were married." He nodded once, eyes darkening. "Her name was Isela. She was light in a place that didn't deserve her. I tried to get her out, but she didn't make it. That's the price of staying too long in the dark." Camila's chest tightened. For the first time, she saw him not as the cartel lord or savior, but as a man hollowed out by loss. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He smiled faintly, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Don't be. I'm the reason she's gone." Before she could respond, a knock sounded at the door. 3 quick raps. Rafael tensed instantly, pulling his gun from the console. He opened the door to find a young man trembling in the darkness, blood on his hands. "Señor Cortez," the boy gasped. "They found the ledger. They're coming for you." Raphael's voice dropped to a whisper. "Who?" "The Culebras. They have your man in Juarez, and the girl's brother." Camila's heart stopped. "Emilio." The boy nodded. "They're using him as bait." Raphael's eyes flicked toward her, and in that single look, she understood everything. The danger, the inevitability, the truth he hadn't told her. "You knew," she whispered. "You knew they'd use him to get to you." He didn't deny it. Her voice shook with fury. "You used me." His hand clenched at his side. "No. I tried to keep you away from it. But once they saw your face, there was no way back." "Because of you," she said, tears streaming down her face. "You put a target on me, on my brother, on everything I had left." He took a step toward her, pained. "Camila, don't." She backed away. "You said you wanted my trust. But all you wanted was a weapon." Raphael's jaw tightened, the mask cracking just enough to reveal guilt. "Maybe that's how it started," he said, voice rough. "But it's not what it became." Her breath trembled. "Then what am I to you?" He looked at her, eyes dark, full of something dangerous and real. "You're the only thing I don't know how to destroy." For a moment, neither of them moved. The world outside hummed with the sound of distant engines, the war closing in. And for the first time, Camila understood the price of walking into Rafael Cortez's world. It wasn't just danger. It was losing the line between love and ruin, and realizing they might be the same thing. The night bled into chaos. Engines roared in the distance, a low thunder crawling closer through the desert. The air smelled of oil, sand, and death. Raphael's safe house, once silent as prayer, now pulsed with tension. Men armed with rifles loaded magazines by the door, voices hushed but urgent. Camila stood near the cracked window, heart racing as dust clouds rose on the horizon. The Culebras were coming. And somewhere among them was her brother. Raphael was on the phone, voice low but controlled. "See. Close every route south. If they reach the border, it's over." He turned, eyes finding hers. "We don't have much time." Camila's hands trembled. "You said you could save him." "I will." "You lied before." He didn't flinch. "I lie to my enemies. Not to you." She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to, but the truth twisted in her chest. She'd seen what he did to those who crossed him, how easily blood became a solution. And yet, the way he looked at her now, there was no calculation in it. Only the quiet fear of a man who knew he might not walk away. "Tell me the plan," she demanded. Raphael's jaw clenched. "You don't get involved." "I already am." He studied her for a long moment, then finally nodded. "They have your brother at an old slaughterhouse near Valle de Juarez. It's heavily guarded. I can get him out, but I need a distraction inside." She understood instantly. "You want me to go in first?" "No," he said sharply. "I want you out of this city by sunrise." Camila stepped closer, fire in her eyes. "You think I'll run while my brother dies for something he stole trying to survive? No, Raphael. I walk with you, or I find him alone." For the first time, his composure broke. He grabbed her wrist, not to hurt but to make her listen. "If something happens to you..." His voice cracked, barely audible. "I can't lose another soul to this." Camila felt it, the fear beneath the iron, the ghost of the man he used to be. "Then don't," she whispered. "Don't lose me. Let me fight with you." His hand loosened. He looked at her like she was a wound he couldn't stop touching. Finally he said, "You'll follow my lead." They drove through the desert at dawn. The horizon glowed faintly orange, but the light felt fragile, like it didn't belong here. The slaughterhouse loomed ahead, a ruin of concrete and rusted steel, its windows blacked out, its walls tagged with the serpent emblem. Raphael parked behind a collapsed water tower. "Stay here," he ordered. Camila reached for the glove compartment and pulled out the pistol he'd hidden there. I'm not waiting in the car. He gave her a look that said arguing was pointless. Then, to her surprise, a faint smile ghosted his lips. Stubborn as fire, he murmured. Always. He leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. When this is over, he said, you walk away from me. Promise me. She shook her head. Don't ask for promises you don't intend to keep. Their eyes locked, and for one impossible second, the world stopped. Then he touched her face, softly, reverently, as if memorizing something he was about to lose. And just like that he was gone. Camila waited only a moment before slipping out and following the path he'd taken through the broken fences. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Inside the slaughterhouse, the air was damp, metallic, heavy with the ghosts of what used to die here. Voices echoed from the far end. She crouched behind a stack of crates, peering through a gap. Emilio was there, bound to a chair, blood dried on his face. Still breathing. And across from him stood a man she recognized from the photo, the one with the serpent tattoo. He laughed, a cruel sound that carried through the hollow space. Rafael Cortez sends his women now. How merciful. Camila froze. He wasn't talking to Emilio. Rafael stood in the open, hands at his sides, weapon holstered. You and I end this today, Rafael said evenly. The tattooed man smirked. You've become soft. Too much light in your dark heart, Cortez. You used to be one of us. Rafael's eyes flicked toward Emilio. Let him go and maybe you live. Maybe I don't care about living. The man lifted his gun, but he never saw Camila move. She stepped out from behind the crates, shouting, Basta! Rafael's face went pale. Camila! But it was too late. Gunfire erupted. The world exploded in noise and smoke. Camila dropped behind a metal beam, heart hammering as bullets tore through the air. Rafael fired back, precise, deadly. His movements as fluid as breath. When it was over, the serpent man lay still, his blood spreading like ink across the concrete floor. Silence fell again, broken only by the sound of Emilio's ragged breathing. Camila ran to him, tearing the ropes away. You're okay. I've got you. He blinked up at her, disoriented. Camila, what did you do? Saved you, she whispered. That's all that matters. Rafael approached slowly, blood on his sleeve, eyes full of exhaustion. We have to move. Now. But Emilio stiffened, pulling away. Don't touch me, he hissed. You think I don't know who you are? You killed our cousin in Juarez. Camila froze. What are you talking about? Emilio's voice shook with fury. He's the one who started this war. The ledger I stole. It wasn't to expose the Culebras. It was to expose him. Her stomach dropped. No. Rafael's voice was quiet, almost pleading. It's not what you think. Emilio shoved the papers toward her. Read it. His name's all over it. Every death, every shipment, every blood deal. Rafael Cortez is the Culebra Syndicate. The words hit harder than any bullet. Camila turned, eyes wide, searching Rafael's face. Tell me it's not true. He didn't speak. Didn't move. Only the silence answered. Her heart shattered. You said you left them. That you were saving us. His voice finally broke raw. I tried. But there's no leaving what you built with your own hands. Emilio reached for her arm. Let's go, Camila. Before he kills us too. Rafael flinched as if struck. I would never hurt you. Then tell me why his name's in your blood ledger. Emilio spat. Rafael's jaw tightened. Because every name in that book is someone I killed to keep you alive. Camila's world tilted. She could taste the dust, feel the weight of the heat pressing against her lungs. She looked between them, her brother, her savior, her ruin. Choose, Emilio said harshly. Come with me. Or die beside him. The echo of that word hung between them. Choose. Rafael met her gaze, eyes full of something breaking. You walk away now, and you never look back. I'll make sure they can't touch you again. Camila felt the tears burning, but she couldn't breathe enough to let them fall. You're asking me to betray blood. He shook his head slowly. I'm asking you to live. She looked at Emilio, terrified, trembling but alive. Then at Raphael, bleeding, dangerous, and yet the only man who had ever looked at her like she was more than the sum of her pain. Her lips parted. Her voice came out a whisper. If I walk away, what happens to you? He smiled faintly. Then I get what I deserve. Outside, sirens wailed, drawing closer. The world narrowed to two men, one choice, and a heartbeat that felt like the edge of forever. Camila closed her eyes. The sound of approaching engines filled the air. When she opened them again, she made her choice. But none of them would survive it unchanged. The morning broke in silence. Smoke drifted over the desert, turning the dawn into a bruise of orange and gray. The slaughterhouse was gone, devoured by fire, its steel bones collapsing into ash. Only the wind moved now, carrying the scent of smoke and salt, and somewhere beneath it, the sound of sirens fading into the horizon. Camila Vega stood on the ridge above the ruins, her body trembling, her hands blackened from soot. Her brother Emilio lay a few feet away. His breathing shallow but steady. He was alive. That was all that mattered. Except for the fact that Rafael Cortez was nowhere to be seen. She had seen him last in the chaos. Gunfire flashing, fire licking up the walls. His voice shouting her name through the smoke. Then the explosion. Then nothing. Now, as the light rose, the silence felt unbearable. Camila pressed her palms together. Dirt caked beneath her nails. Please God, she thought, though she wasn't sure who she was praying to anymore. Don't let this be the end of him. Behind her, Emilio stirred. We have to go, he rasped. She turned, her throat tightening at the sight of him. Blood on his shirt, eyes hollow with fear. You need a doctor. He shook his head. No hospitals. They'll find us. Who? The Culebras. Rafael might be gone, but his name still opens doors on both sides of the border. We're not safe. Camila's pulse thudded. You think he's dead? Emilio's gaze fell to the burning wreck. If he isn't, he will be soon. That's what men like him earn. But the words didn't land the way he meant them to. Because deep inside, beneath her anger and confusion, Camila felt something else, certainty. Flicker. The strange calm that comes when the heart knows what the mind refuses to believe. Rafael Cortez wasn't gone. 2 weeks later, they were hiding in a small motel outside Las Cruces. The days were long and dry, the nights full of whispering winds that carried ghosts. Emilio healed slowly, but he barely spoke. Sometimes she caught him staring at the wall, jaw tight, the trauma still clawing its way out of him. Camila tried to keep them invisible. Fake names, cash payments, a life lived in quiet shadows. But every night she dreamed of the fire. Of Raphael stepping into the flames. Of his voice, calm, certain, saying her name like a prayer he didn't deserve. Then one night a knock came at the door. 3 slow taps. The same rhythm she'd heard at the safe house before everything fell apart. Her heart stopped. She opened the door to find a man she didn't recognize. Older, gray hair, a scar across his temple. He wore a black jacket and carried no weapon she could see. Camila Vega. She nodded cautiously. He handed her a sealed envelope. He said you'd understand. Who? She whispered, though she already knew. The man's eyes softened. A ghost who didn't want to be one. Then he walked away, disappearing into the dark. Camila closed the door and tore open the envelope. Inside was a single folded note, written in Raphael's sharp handwriting. There's a cabin north of truth or consequences. Inside, you'll find what your brother risked his life for. Burn it, and you'll both be free. Keep it, and the war will never end. Forgive me for what I've done. I never meant for you to carry my sins. Her breath caught. He was alive. Who is it from? Emilio asked from the bed. His voice tired but alert. She hesitated. No one you need to worry about. He frowned. You're lying. Maybe, she said softly. He sighed, leaning back. Whatever it is, don't go chasing him again, Cammy. He's poison. But she couldn't stop thinking of his eyes, the way they had looked at her that night, the night he'd let her live when he could have claimed her instead. So at dawn, while her brother slept, Camila took the car and drove north. The desert stretched endlessly, vast and aching. The farther she drove, the more the noise of the world fell away, until only the wind remained. The cabin sat at the edge of a dried riverbed, small and quiet, as if the earth itself had forgotten it existed. She pushed open the door, dust swirling in the light. Inside was a table. On it a small wooden box. Her hands trembled as she lifted the lid. Inside were documents, photographs, USB drives. Everything Emilio had stolen, everything that could bring down what was left of the Culebra Syndicate. But on top of the pile was something else. A single silver key, identical to the one Raphael had given her the night they met. And beneath it, a note in his handwriting. If you've come this far, it means I'm gone. Or it means you still believe I can be something better. Either way, I kept my promise. Your brother is free. The rest is yours now. You once asked what you were to me. You were the proof that angels don't need wings to walk through hell. Tears blurred her vision. She sank to her knees, clutching the letter to her chest. The sound of footsteps behind her made her spin. He stood in the doorway, dust-covered, scarred, alive. Raphael. Camila's breath caught. You didn't die, he said quietly. Not yet. He stepped closer, the light catching the burn along his arm. I let them think I did. The Culebras will chase ghosts until the desert takes them. Her eyes filled with tears. Why come back? His smile was faint, weary. To say goodbye the right way. She shook her head. You don't get to leave again. I have to. He glanced toward the box. That's your future, not mine. I'm what has to stay buried. Camila moved closer until she could see the exhaustion in his eyes. The scars, the man behind the myth. You don't get to decide that. You saved us. He looked away. And damned myself. Her hand found his. Maybe redemption isn't about saving yourself. Maybe it's about what you choose to protect. He let out a quiet breath. Half a laugh, half a sob. You sound like her. Your wife. He nodded. She said the same thing the night she died. Camila's thumb brushed the back of his hand. Then maybe she's still speaking through the people you saved. The silence between them was heavy and tender, filled with everything they'd lost and everything they couldn't say. Finally he said, What will you do now? She looked at the box. End it. Burn it. Start over. He nodded slowly. Then maybe you'll get the peace I never could. Come with me, she said. He smiled, small and sad. If I walk with you, they'll never stop hunting. If I disappear, they'll forget. Raphael. He reached out, his hand cupping her face, his thumb tracing a tear that had escaped. You're the first person who saw the man, not the monster. Don't let that light die trying to follow me. Her voice cracked. I don't want to forget you. He leaned in until their foreheads touched. Then don't. Just remember me, right? She wanted to speak, but he kissed her. Soft, fleeting, full of everything that could never be said aloud. Then he stepped back, the sunrise catching his face in gold and ash. And before she could stop him, he was gone, walking into the endless desert, the wind carrying him away like a ghost returning to dust. Camila stood there for a long time, the letter still in her hands, the morning light breaking fully now, painting everything in quiet forgiveness. Then she picked up a match, struck it, and let it fall into the box. The flames rose fast, devouring the paper, the names, the past. When it was done, she turned toward the horizon and began to walk. Behind her, the fire burned bright, an offering to the dead, a promise to the living. Ahead, the desert stretched wide and endless. And though her wings were invisible, she finally understood what it meant to fly.